Hi, my name's Andy Johnson, and I play video games a lot. I play them on my phone, I play them on the PC, I play them on my console. I'm also extremely fortunate to have been working in video game and web development for 30 years.
So I actually got a job because I was asked about how do you plan, and I said, you plan, 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 panic. They liked that answer so much that they hired me off off the back of that. It's still true today that you can plan out, and then as soon as you start building, then things always change, right? So I've been in video game development and web development since like forever, 1991, right? I was extremely lucky to get a shot at working at Sega just after Sonic 1 was released. There are a lot of video game how-to courses online, and you guys have seen a bunch of them, right? There are a lot of them by people who never made video games, right? And they're teachers and they've been in academia, and that's great, but they haven't had any practical, they're working off theory, right? And we're going to delve a lot into the difference between theory and practical implementation in this course. As a game producer, you want to be able to look at the problem, understand the problem, suggest, because you're not always going to tell people how to do things, right? Suggest alternate plans or routes or methods, and adjust and resolve that problem, unblock that roadblock, and then move on to the next thing, right? Most games are probably like minimum 3 years right now. So you start at day one of a 3-year project, and you're like, we're kind of going to build this thing. And then by the time you get to the end of the project, you're like, if you compared what you thought you were going to build with what you ended up with, they could be very different. One of the crucial early roles that you want to hire in would be a designer, right? We can't make a game without a game design. We need to know what we're building. We need to understand what the game design goals are, and the feature set is, even if it's at a very high level of we want to do this thing, without that information, like we can't go on and make all the other choices we need to make throughout, right? We can't figure out, like we don't know what we're building, so we can't figure out what our team composition is, right? If it's a very art heavy game, we won't understand that until we've really worked heavily with a designer. And normally with a team size of about 10, you would definitely want one designer. So this central part here, right? This is where the magic happens. This is where sparks begin to happen and games come together, right? Where that overlap is. If we go back, I'm going to be super confused. Like you can see the central section here on this map. Super confused, right? Let me go forward again. Sorry, guys. That's where the magic happens, where everybody intersects, but that's also where the confusion happens, right? That's where you have very technology-minded, focused teams solving problems and not thinking about art and not thinking about design and vice versa. And that's where producers live, right? This is a realm of production, right? Production sits in the middle in that magical confusion zone, trying to make things happen, trying to make sure that everybody progresses and keeps going, and that design feels like they're being listened to. Technology, engineering feels like they are having input, and art feels like they're getting love as well. As producers, we are often asked to do things out of order, right? And this assignment is specifically put in this place to test this, right? Not to test, sorry, so you can experience this, right? Because you're not going to experience this outside anywhere else, right? This assignment is about building a team, right? So you're going to build a development team, theoretically, right? This isn't a real team, but you're going to build a development team for Paperboy. And I don't know if any of you guys know what Paperboy is. It really doesn't matter. But it's a 1984 game that you can go look up on Wikipedia, YouTube, dig into it, figure out what Paperboy is, right? We are going to build, like each of you are in Theoryland, you're each a producer, and you've been given 18 months to build a new Paperboy game, right? It's going to be iOS, Android only, so you don't have to worry about Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft. And it's going to be released for modern market, right? So it can be retrograde, however you want to do it, right? This is all Theoryland, but it's so you guys can experience being a producer in steps, right? So what is a project roadmap? So a project roadmap is directional, right? It's high level and it's strategic. It is, it represents a feature breakdown of these are the things we're going to build. And it has estimated durations for each of the features, each of the high level line items, so to speak, that we're gonna build out. It runs in order of operations. So our order of operations is we do this thing, and then we move to this thing, and then we move to this thing. This is a really often misstepped. This is a step that is often missed, right? What tends to happen is teams go directly from we have design brief or thing directly into building, right? And the pitfall there is you're not exploring the requirements of what you're building, right? And the idea of this is we're going to go through multiple times. What are we building? What is the thing? And we're going to create a list. And then once we have a list, we're going to go back and we're going to pick one of those things, and we're going to do the same essentially exercise again, right? We're going to host meetings and discussions with the core team. And the emphasis is around understanding the work, understanding the feature set and requirements, right? In the real world, it's more difficult right now in 2020 land, which we're still in, even though it's 21. It was still friggin' Marty McFly hasn't fixed the timeline yet, so we're still stuck here. You would normally have a whiteboard, right? And you would have a whiteboard session. You have everyone in there, and you just write on the whiteboard, right? And you just write in lists. So focus is on list. It's not on details. You want to list out all of the features that your game is going to need, right? And your first session would be super high level, right? And we're going to go through kind of an exercise on this later on. So let's figure out what we want to put in the game. And we're going to go through this exercise, right? So just come off mute, and then if you're comfortable, like say a feature, a thing, and we'll put it in here, and we'll just go through this for about maybe 10 minutes and go through a road mapping session. And I'm going to step back. I'm going to play producer role, right? Like this whole lesson is to try and open your eyes so you can be like, oh, okay, a game producer isn't like one thing, right? That's this entire lesson is like a game producer is this umbrella of things. And the umbrella of things is always changing, right? Like we had free to play. Before free to play, we didn't have product managers. Now we have product managers, right? Next month, like something else may pop up and happen. Google Stadia may like blow up and become a big thing. And then all of a sudden we have like, I don't know, streaming producers, or right? It could be, we don't know. And that's the fun of being a producer and being in games, is it's constantly evolving. And we just have to like hang on and try and make sense of it and get a game out that people love.